Welcome to episode 4, part 2 of the Bird's Words podcast. Our guest today is Rob Gray. Rob has served 23 years in the United States Army. He is a Special Forces Green Beret and Army Ranger. He deployed 7 times at the height of the wars, spending approximately 40 months total deployed to combat zones. He retired as a lieutenant colonel in 2020 and is a 100% disabled veteran. In 2021, he was paired with a golden retriever service dog named Plato, like the philosopher, from the America's Vet Dogs with the help of the U.S. SOCOM Warrior Care Coalition program. He's the proud father of 4 sons. He has a master's degree in Theological Studies. He's currently pursuing a second master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. He's also a graduate of the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, where he received his commissioning into the Army. He moved to Florence, Alabama in 2021, splitting his time between here and Oregon until moving back here permanently in the summer of 2023 to be near his 4 sons. He loves the outdoors, playing soccer and doing yoga, hiking, and taking Jeep trips with his dog, painting, writing, and plays piano with a local band. His journey of faith has been with him since childhood. He served as a men's ministry director in 2 churches, is an ordained deacon, and led a pastoral search committee in his previous church. His faith has sustained him throughout his life, not only through his career in the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, but through other more personal wars here at home. He's a strong advocate for veterans and children's mental health, and is equally passionate about ending veteran suicide, topics which we'll get into later in the podcast. All right, you wrap up SEER school, survive that. You're not the one.
That's right.
You did not get away.
Nope.
And hopefully that helped to prepare you for some other experiences you're going to have. So what's next?
So finished year school. We graduated the Q course. And actually 10 days later, I was on a plane to Afghanistan. I reported in the 3rd Special Forces Group, 1st Battalion. That was the summer of 2004. And there were already 4 deployed, 1st Battalion was, so I flew over to catch them the last 2 months of their deployment, and at least get that under my belt, because they're already slated to deploy again the next year. We already knew the next deployment before we even got back from the first one. Again, that is something that became difficult over time for guys and families.
It takes a toll.
Yeah, and so I landed in Kandahar, and I was assigned to Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group, and I was a company XO, executive officer, so to speak, kind of administrative officer. They had 3 teams. I went out to, we're down in Kandahar Province. We went out to Gareshk Fire Base out in Musa Calais, and there were three ODAs out there in the company headquarters. And they had just had a team that lost that got into a complex ambush and firefight, and Bruce Price, warrant officer, had been killed, and several other team members had been wounded, and the team redeployed back to the States, to take care of the guys that were hurt and to take care of his family as best they could. And that happened like literally days before I got there, and so it was a heavy, lot of heaviness at that fire base, across the group in general, the battalion in general. When I got there, because again they were about 4 months deep into their deployment. So I got there. I'm kind of learning the ropes. First time deployed. What do you take with you? You don't know what to expect. You can read about it, you can learn about it, you can study it, but until you get there, you don't understand it. Until you can smell it, you can taste it in your mouth, you sleep in it, you wake up in it. and so I was learning the ropes, so to speak. Some great guys out there. I was riding with the team, working in the company ops end. They're teaching me, comms, shooting. First rifle I had with the the optics they used and everything, and just really good stuff starting off as far as them bringing me in and welcoming me to the company, so to speak.
What was your role as a commander? What
I wasn't a commander.
Not commander.
Nope.
You said XO. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Say it again.
XO is the kind of executive officer for the company.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what's your role there?
So really, there already was an XO, and so I was just kind of shadowing that guy.
Okay.
Because I wasn't going to take a team until later.
Okay.
And I was going to shadow under that team. I was going to ride the last couple of months with that team, and so I went out and did ops with those guys, and kind of got my taste for it.
Gotcha.
I was an assistant gunner. I was security. I'd go into these Loya Yoga meetings they had, with local elders and whatnot, and listen, observe, see how they operate. I mean, these guys had 2 or 3 deployments under their belt.
Yeah, and you're trying to just absorb everything you can.
You're just being a sponge.
And so that when you're leading a team,
Yep.
then you know the ins and outs.
Right,
Every sense is firing. I mean, the best that you can,
and again, extraordinary men as soon as I got there, and a tremendous amount of knowledge. And everybody, wants to get you up to speed because you can't have any weak links, so to speak. And then about 3 weeks after I got there, there was a catastrophic IED with ODA 311 in Shinkei province on the other side of the country, and Dan Eggers and Rob Mogeson were killed, along with two support guys that were driving and gunning, and so that was 4 casualties from that team. And I remember walking into the ops end. I'd come off the range or something. I was out there shooting with one of the guys, and I walked in, and everybody's just tremendously heavy. The SATCOM was silent, except for the team sergeant talking back to the battalion headquarters and the siege SOTA supporting them. But they'd hit the lead vehicle in their ODA 311 had hit a series of daisy-chained IEDs, 7 IEDs, and just blew apart. And there's a lot more to the story. It was horrible. And anyway, they tried to medevac Rob apparently, and he didn't make it back, from the medevac. And so the team had to come back, went back to Kandahar. I think they stayed out there. What I was told, they stayed out there overnight because the vehicle was so hot it was still burning off munitions. And they dropped, again, what I was told, 5 body bags, for 4 bodies, because you got a body bag for pieces and parts. And, they had to be secured out there, so they had to get air up over those guys overnight. They had to bring in, other entities to support. It's very tragic.
That's terrible.
Horrific.
So you walked in. There was a death that had just happened when you got there. You said
312. Yeah.
And then there's 4 casualties in that IED daisy chain.
Yeah. Same company, all within 2 weeks. And so,
what was that? I mean, there had to have been an awful feeling in the air. What was going through your head? I mean,
well, I was trying to process, what does that mean to a single company? An SF company, has 6 teams. If each team's fully manned with 12 guys, it's a very small group of dudes. And maybe you got 5 Green Berets too at the company headquarters level, and they've had 2 teams now sustain catastrophic loss of life, and there's still another 6 weeks left in the deployment. And wow, war is real kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's real. I'd known one guy that I knew in college, ROTC, years earlier. He got killed early in the war, Tristan. But just as a name, I'd seen his name in the early days, initial invasion of Iraq, and had not been around, anybody that had lost him, had not been in a unit, at war. And so it was also a learning lesson. And so anyway, I don't know if it was the next day or 2 days later, but I woke up and the company commander came in, Chris Fox, great dude. He's still buddies to this day, just a good leader, a good man. He walked in, he sat down on one of the bunks I was staying in, and he said, hey, the battalion commander wants you to go back to Kandahar, and you're going to take ODA 311 since Dan got killed. And I just kind of looked at him like, really? And he said, yep. He said, pack your stuff. We got a couple gun trucks. We're going to drive back today. It's time to go. And so he got me in the jock, and he said the team's already back, so this must have been a couple days later. And he made a phone call with the team sergeant. He told me the team sergeant, John Crenshaw, tremendous NCO, one of the most professional NCOs that he knew, and our sergeant major, Basalt de Graaf, very, very storied Special Forces NCO. He was a company sergeant major at the time. He talked to me about John, about Crenshaw, and told me what kind of guy he was. And so I got on the phone with him, and I mean, what do you say? Hey, I'm the guy coming to replace Dan. Kind of that just. But he was, I asked him how he was doing, and he said, hey, we're here, we're dealing with it, but we're going to refit, and we're going right back out to find the guys. And I said, okay. And so, I mean, you talk about a wake-up call. You've been training for this your whole career, and now it's happening like this. It's not all what you expected. It's tragic. And so anyway, we went back to Kandahar later that day, a few hours drive, and went and saw the battalion commander. He said, I want you to go back out with that team. He said, I want you guys to figure out, who the bad guys were that did it, what IED cell that was, the financiers, the IED manufacturers, the bomber, whatever. Let's get this figured out before we redeploy.
Yeah.
And
because it's on another level now.
Yeah, and you got 4 weeks, and rightfully so. The team was seeing red. I mean, I wasn't there, but they told me many times about that day, and I know those guys dealt with that and carry that to this day. And when you think about it, when you're in combat, it can happen, I suppose. But when it happens like that to anybody, and they're just gone, it's especially as tragic as that event was. 4 guys, catastrophic explosion the way it happened, and like I said, there's more behind it, more complex story. But anyway, I met the team, and I remember telling them, and I knew Dan. Dan and I were in IOBC together, the Infantry Officer Basic Course, way back in like 97, 98. And I had cracked my shin. I had some kind of crack in my lower leg bone, and Dan had some kind of injury, so we got recycled back then too. You always get injured, you always get recycled for stuff. And anyway, so Dan and I were in this recycled medical hold kind of thing, as brand new lieutenants. And he's from the Citadel, and so we knew each other from back then. And then he went to the 3rd Infantry Division. I went to the 82nd. And he was ahead of me in the Q course by about, a year or something like that. And he already had, I think, 2 deployments under his belt, too. I mean, early days of the war, guys were deploying just back to back to back. And so the first thing I did when I walked in to meet the team was I told them, hey, I'm Rob Gray, brand new. I've been here for 3 weeks, and I don't know nothing. I need you guys to help me. And I'm not here to replace Dan. Dan Eggers, the man, cannot be replaced. But I knew who Dan was. I told a couple stories about Dan. And then we loaded up our trucks the next day and we drove out to Shinkay, to that fire base. And we figured it out. They had a very good intel network out there. The warrant officer did great. The guys already kind of they had the whole area already. They understood the area. They understood what the entities were that were operating, what the different cells were. And we were able to interdict and
handle some business, I imagine.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
How long did it take when you integrated into the team? When did you feel like how much time had to pass before everybody felt somewhat comfortable with each other? Not just on you protect each other and
probably after the deployment.
After,
because I'm a brand new captain. These guys again have 2 or 3 deployments under their belt. And it didn't matter what I said or anything else. Yeah. They have not. I haven't operated with them. They haven't operated with me. And like I say, a small team, a small unit like that, trust is a big thing. And my job was to go out there and just make sure that they weren't seeing too much red, and to let them finish the deployment, finish the intel ops they've been doing, finish the all the engagements they've been doing, all the work they've been doing, and to submit the con ops and the op sums. The operations that we did. You write up, you send them back with the support that you need, and then post operation, you write the operational summaries and send that back. And JC and I talked. My team sergeant, great dude. Absolutely the best team sergeant I ever could have got in the world. A great warrant officer, Rudy, just brought me into the fold, And I told those guys, I said, I'm not here to try to take command and lead or anything, man. I said, no. Let me know what I need to do as the new captain, and let's do it. Because I knew Dan too. I didn't know Rob. Yeah. Rob had several deployments too. I said, but let's figure it out and let's get it done. Yeah. And we did, and we redeployed. And so that short burst 2-month deployment, my first deployment, while only 2 months.
Drinking from a fire hydrant, as the old saying goes.
Yeah, and I would say that shaped my experience of being a special forces officer. How I would lead, how I would command, understanding how your higher command operates, how teams operate, how guys operate, what trust is, getting missions done, and then all the tragedy that was in the midst of it. We went back and we buried Dan at Arlington, and it was tough all the way around, and it was a war, and it will continue for many years, and you have to a certain degree almost get numb to the things you experience. And even when you see civilian casualties, there's civilian casualties, on the field, women, children, and you can't do anything about that, And but the bottom line is, it's not anything that can be taught. It's not anything that was taught to us necessarily in any leadership course, in the Q course, and you have to go there and experience it, and you have to have a strong moral and ethical center. You have to have a good grounding in your training. You got to have the discipline not to allow emotions to become out of control. Even like we were talking about earlier with medical stuff, anybody can get hurt at any time. And you could lose your mind over some of the stuff you see over there. But in those moments, you've got to remain, you still got to fight whatever fight you're in. You got to try to sustain whoever is injured. You got to try and ignore these other things over here. You've got to manage the battle space you're in. That could be air, that could be medevac coming in, it could be QRF coming in, it could be that you're advancing, it could be that you're withdrawing, it could be day or night. So many factors and variables. Anything can happen at any time. Yeah, and you've only got what you got. You only got 3 gun trucks on an SF team.
Yeah.
Typically. And maybe you got some Afghans in support or whatever, but
I mean, that's a brutal headspace.
yeah.
What about balancing a brutal job with some spirituality? I realize, when you're operating, I can imagine when you're operating, you're focused on what you're doing. But even after it's over, when you're filing it away, you've still got to come home, and you've still got to you've got to do something with it. So some people may look at terrible situations, things that you saw, and they look at it and they may question their faith. And on the two-edged sword, it's a wedge, right? So there's 2 ways you can go sometimes, and sometimes amidst awful tragedy, some people find a way to settle that, and it leads them in a circle back to God, to restore creation and to fix the brokenness that can't hardly be described. And then there's another element that could make someone doubt and question and go into a hole. Did you deal with any of that?
Well, let me take a question and go through the next 2 years, because there's still 3 more deployments, right, for that in the span of these same years.
Yeah.
Because my faith was extremely vital to me. Through that, I had a great time in the Q course for 2 years. We're going to church. We had a great Sunday school class, like 30 couples at our church up there at Fort Bragg, Fayetteville. All same age demographic. We all did the same thing. We'd rally around the families that had people supported, whether it's the husband or wife. Kids are all roughly the same age, Good community. Q course, we had guys, we had Bible studies and stuff like that, if we could do it in language school or wherever. And then we came back from that deployment, settled into the team. Some guys moved around. We got some new guys that came to the team. A buddy of mine, Chris Thompson, who I'll talk about later, but he came to the team at that time. And so our new team, with some of the guys that have been through that event, when I came to the team, a couple guys left, a couple new guys came in. The battalion sent us and the company commander sent us to Yemen to do a 2-month, it was called JSET, Joint Combined Exercise Training over there with the Yemeni Counterterrorism Force, whatever they're called, for a couple months to build this new team to become cohesive so that we could deploy again in, I think it was the next June. That'd be June 05 to February 06. Yeah, so we knew another deployment's coming up in 6 or 8 months. They wanted us to go to Yemen, put this new team together and heal. And that's when, to your question earlier, how was the integration, it didn't happen until after the deployment.
Gotcha.
And so the new team, we went to Yemen for a couple of months, did some stuff down there. And then came back, and then we're in a training cycle for about 5 months. Went back to Afghanistan, summer of 05 through the January, February of 06, and that was about an 8-month deployment. And that's where my brother and I bumped into each other in the same fire base. We're in RC East in 05. He was deployed over there. And about halfway through the deployment, we moved RC West out to Herat. We're trying to stand up some new fire bases. We'd pull teams out of the western part of the country and had no presence over there. It became kind of, it was run by ISAF and NATO, and it became, you could call it almost permissive for they changed the name all the time. It wasn't always the Taliban. It wasn't always, bad guy names change every year. Enemy combatants, Islamic extremists, whatever they're being called at the time. It became a free area for them out there. So we insured more teams, 3 teams. We went out there to Herat, and anyway, it was a fairly stable deployment. We did a lot of ops in RC East. There were a lot of gunfights. We were getting taking rocket attacks in the fire base. We're out on patrol doing reconnaissance and going to villages, doing meetings. There's a lot of civil affair projects. There's not as much combat. And RC West, kind of the same thing, kind of quiet. When we got out there, we were doing mostly intelligence operations, trying to develop the picture and working with other entities out there. And came back from that, and I'd gone in the spring to a specialized shooting demolitions course, SFARTech, Special Forces Advanced Reconnaissance, Target Analysis, and Exploitation Techniques course. Just a long name for a CQB and demolition school. So that was a 2-month school, and then that qualifies you to go to the CIF company that each Special Forces group has. And the CIF companies at the time were Commanders and Extremist Force companies. They're essentially a flexible, direct action counterterrorism capability in each group that the geographical command could utilize for counterterrorism type stuff or reconnaissance or whatever they wanted to. And so third group had one civic company. First group has one for the Pacific. 10th group's got one for Europe, et cetera. 7th group's got one for South America. And so I got into the school back in the spring. And again, my team sergeant, he got me to the school. He got me out there and got me a slot. And I appreciated that. And so after this 7-month deployment, 8-month deployment, 0506, they were short a couple of captains over in the CIF company. I happened to be SFARTech qualified already. So they moved me over there, but now I moved on to the Iraq deployment cycle. So 1st Battalion had been Afghanistan, B-23, the CIF company for 3rd group. They were on the Iraq schedule, shifting out with 5th group's CIF company, A-15. And so I got over to that company, having come back in early February, and we're going to deploy out the door again in June or late July. Yeah, it's August to December. And so I went over there and picked up their cycle, had to learn a whole new team, much more senior NCOs. Everybody in there is a sergeant first class or higher, so very, very professional organization, very what's the way to describe it? Outside of some of the best men in the world, some of the strongest men in the world, some of the most proficient shooters, operators, physically fit men,
and you get to be around them
in the world. And I've got the honor of being able to go in there and start from day one learning all over again. It's my second team, man. I got a couple of deployments under my belt. I haven't been to Iraq yet, so I'm the new guy all over again. And that's the way it is. And because you got to go in there, and sure, I think I can shoot. I can PT pretty good. I can operate a radio. I can drive a vehicle. But these guys, I'll tell you this one story. When we first went to the range, we got to the range, we set up, and we're going to do, 3-inch dots or 6-inch dots. I think we're more of 3-inch dots at about 5, 7, or 10 meters. And, so I've been, on a team now for almost 2 years and going to this team. And everybody sets up on the range. It's kind of, go as you are. And you're gunned up, holstered up. I go down, I staple my target up, 4 staples with a staple gun. I turn around, I'm walking back down my lane because guys are shooting left and right. I'll never forget Tommy was right next to me on the left, had a cigarette in his mouth. He draws his pistol and he just goes, ping, 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 ping. Shot my 4 staples out. And my target drops to the ground.
Oh, that's good.
And he goes, hey, sir, you need to go staple your target up. And I went, oh, boy. This is going to be
good.
This is off to the races. I mean, it's like, and that's how it was. And you had to know, demolitions. You had to know everything was at a much higher level.
Yeah, like in every category, there's a high expectation in every single category.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, the mission, the men, I mean, just extraordinary dudes, and so we were going to Baghdad, and that was the summer that Saddam got executed. It was horrific. He had just been executed. Before we got there, we ripped in, and I didn't know anything about Iraq, and urban warfare, Baghdad, concrete structures. And so we get there, and I'm left seat, right seat riding with the captain who was leaving. Actually, I think it was 7th Group. It was C-37 that was ripping out, and B-23 was ripping in. And so I'm following this guy around everywhere. I'm like, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? I mean, honestly, pretty nervous. Pretty darn, nervous. Scared is not the right word. It's more performance anxiety. Am I going to be good enough?
Yeah.
Am I going to be good enough for the guys? Yeah.
And that's a rough feeling. I mean, it has to be a rough feeling, right? I mean,
it is, because you've got, again, extraordinary men. The mission gets done because the NCOs are doing it.
Yeah.
But they expect you, whatever your job is, your capacity is, decision making, leading the op in the moment. When things are happening, making sure that you've got the support you need. When you need it, that's all in place, and you can't let them down. And so, the first couple of nights we went out, again, same kind of thing. You haven't operated with us. Don't go in the structure. We're going to roll up on this building. We're going to assault it. You stay out here and pull security. Cool. Got it. Too easy. So we pull up dead of night, and this was one of 2 times when on deployments when I was the most scared of my life. And this was actually the second time. I forgot the other story, 05-06 deployment in Afghanistan. But I'm out. I'm standing behind this huge stone column outside of this building. We're downtown Baghdad somewhere. I don't even remember where. Some neighborhood, some bad neighborhood. They're assaulting. They go inside the structure. I've got my M4. I'm kind of looking around. It's night, and the gun trucks are in the street, and a gunfight breaks out. You can hear demolitions inside. You can hear a couple shots, and it's getting busy, so to speak. And so I'm kind of like, okay, this is different. It's a lot closer. It's and then there's some shots kind of out here in the urban area that we're in. And
like in the greater vicinity,
in the greater vicinity of the neighborhood. We had a couple gunfights in villages, and stuff like that, but nothing like this. Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing it. I'm hearing the amount of fire, the rate of fire. I'm hearing AK-47s. I'm hearing Dishka machine guns, which means the bad guys, and then return fire by U.S. weapon systems. And it's like, oh, this is a little bit more complex. I'm standing there, and I start hearing it closer and closer. And pretty soon there's somebody that pops up on the roof across the street from me, and he's firing down the street. And I look back, I'm like, what? And so as I realize he's up there shooting, I go to move around the column. I look down, and I see the concrete blowing up in front of me, just marching towards me, just ping, ping, ping. Slow motion, I guess. I don't know, but I'm watching it march towards me. And I'm behind this column, and I just wrap myself up like that as round as I could, and it's pink, pink, pink.
How big did you say it was? Are we talking like a 2, 3?
This column, I don't know, 3 feet, big enough for me to stand behind.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I asked is because in that moment, I'm sure every inch mattered.
Yeah, every inch. And I can't tell you about the timing or anything, because I'm looking at the gun truck right there in the street in front of me, and the 50 cal gunner swings around and just goes whoop, boom, 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 boom. So all this happened at the same time.
I bet that was a good feeling, though. Yeah, I mean, you're like, whew, thank you for that.
It was, I mean, that moment was probably the biggest rush I'd had to date. I mean, by far. Not in a great way at all. It's just, this is just chaotic. It's orienting so fast.
Yeah.
And the sound of that 50 cal, just rumbling. the structure, and then you poke around and see if the guy's still moving, so you can do your bit, and it's just dust, and it's like, okay, well, that got solved. Yeah. And so that was kind of my introduction to Iraq, Baghdad 06. And on that deployment, there were about 300 bodies a day getting dumped across Baghdad in the Tigris and Euphrates, because you had the Shias and the Sunnis all killing each other. Over Saddam being killed, and you had Jaish al-Mahdi operating. The Iranians were operating their militias, and then you had the Sunni Al-Qaeda entities. You had the Sunni Baathists. That were the Saddam party. I mean, it was just a disaster.
Just chaos everywhere.
Yeah. And we were on a reverse cycle. We slept during the day. We operated at night. We were Task Force Raptor, and the whole company deployed, and we had one troop that was just working Jaish al-Mahdi, the Iranian militias, and primarily in Sadr City. 1 million Shias in a I don't know, several kilometer by several kilometer square that Saddam had just put all the Shias in there. And no coalition forces could go into Sadr City except for us, and we hunted at night, and we were paired with the Iraqi counterterrorism force, and that's what we did. We'd go in there every night and chase down these militias and high-value targets. And the other troop was chasing the Sunni Al-Qaeda targets, with task force. I mean, there were two distinct, target sets. You got the Sunni Al-Qaeda radical militants over here, and then you got the Iranian Jaish al-Mahdi entities over here, and they're all fighting each other during the day, during the night. I mean, the whole city was it was chaotic. You'd be driving through the city at night, and you just see a vehicle burning, and everybody's just driving. Curfew, so it was only us operating at night. You're going to Sadr City probably 3 to 5 nights a week. You got a couple nights, down nights, and then, but every day you're reverse cycle sleeping, waking up at night, going out doing ops, come back doing the same thing for,
What was your morale like? Were you feeling decent?
Morale was very high.
Yeah.
Because you're around again with some of the greatest Americans on the face of the earth, some of the greatest warriors on the face of the earth, and these guys. I mean, it's just it's what we trained for, and you got your bad days, you got your low days, you're tired or whatever, but at any given time, the unit itself, the men, the energy, the mission, it's indescribable. I mean, the movies don't touch it, but the sense of camaraderie and mission is just such that you might get 2 hours of sleep, but you wake up and you're ready to go. Throw your gun belt on, let's go. If they come in and say, hey, we need an extra gunner, we need an extra, whatever. 5 guys raise their hand and say, I'll go. I mean, it's just, it was extraordinary.
Yeah, and I think part of what you're referencing is, there's an air, when you're surrounded by such a group of just incredible people, it's motivating, and you're absorbing just knowledge and wisdom, and I mean, you've got that friendship, and two, I mean, not to mention your life is on the line, and
the resources,
I mean, it's a unique thing.
Yeah.
So what was it like under the presidential leadership, vice president, presidential leadership? What are you thinking about as all this is going on through this time?
Well, this is still called early days. This is only 06.
Okay.
We just been 9/11 happened just 5 years ago, and we got both theaters wide open. You're trying to build, and if I back up to 05, 06, Afghanistan, the first parliamentary elections, we're going out to villages and doing village engagements, going, people of this village, go and vote for your parliamentary representative in the upcoming elections. I mean, they followed a code called Pashtun Wali, and it was based on it was like a bastardization of the Quran and Islamic law, and a combination of the Pashtun tribal code that had been around for hundreds, thousands of years, and it was this enmeshment of those two things that we just never understood.
Is that the code where the ladies walk like 10 feet behind their husbands everywhere they go? That might not be the same thing.
That could be
a number of things.
Islam, but I mean this Pashtun Wali. I mean, Afghanistan. We never understood it. We didn't understand it going in. We don't understand it to this day. I mean, to go deep into their tribal subsystems and to understand how they live, how they actually get along with other tribes, how they manage the land. Who gets to go on this land to get this water resource or these trees? We never understood that. And so you can't walk into a country like that and say, we want to give you democracy. We want to set up a justice department alongside your Islamic court systems that you have. It's just incompatible.
Were you picking up anything like along the way that was helpful in any way, as much as you could? Or, I mean, was this just like an uncrackable code?
You had, at the tactical level, we understood it.
Yeah.
And there were some great things written, and Jim Gant wrote some good stuff. It takes a tribe, and he tells the stories about getting to know and understand one tribe, but that one tribe always has their peculiarities, and another tribe
they might have their own.
That's right, and so there is no central governance. They do things through meetings or through fighting, and the classic thing about Afghanistan is they all fight each other until a foreign entity comes in, and then they all mesh together to fight the foreign entity. It happened to the Russians, it happened to the British 3 times. It happened to us. Yeah. And I mean, look at the way it ended. I don't really want to get too deep on that side, but we dumped a lot of money into that country, and you had a lot of groups, nonprofits and whatnot. We tried to build them solar power. We tried to give them democracy. I mean, these things just didn't work. Yeah. And so we were doing that in Afghanistan, and they'd sit there and they'd raise their hands in these meetings. They go, but you were talking on the other side of the mountains. They've never been to Kandahar, man. They don't know what we're talking about. Go vote. Vote. What does that mean? And we're having them dip their fingers in purple ink to show they voted. And I want to. I really want to stay away from that. Yeah,
it sounds like there's a lot to unpack there. But
and then we look at the way it ended. Announcing we're going to withdraw on the 20th anniversary, announcing, that to the world that, hey, just in case you want to take your country back, we're gonna announce the day that we're pulling out on the 20th anniversary, because that's how we do it in the West. We like anniversaries. Isn't that convenient?
So there's a lot to analyze there. Zooming back in on a unit perspective, or with your group, morale's high. You're trying to learn, absorb everything you can from the area, from the people who are. You've got this code, this code that you're trying to figure out, and they're all different and varying. So what's it like moving forward? What are you thinking now at this point?
In Iraq, we're trying to build capacity. So Iraq at least had an infrastructure. They were a little bit more developed than Afghanistan. I mean, Afghanistan, landlocked country, no resources. There's nothing there. It's a very sad place, and it's very unfortunate what occurred there. But Iraq, hoping for the best, that they can establish some kind of democracy over there in the Middle East. Well, there's just not a whole lot of democracies in the Middle East. That's the other problem. And, Iran has a tremendous influence over there. And, again, I could talk to... I don't want to delve into the politics of the Middle East, but, that didn't really work out either. We prop up. We enabled them to establish a new governance. We gave them security forces. We gave them training. We enabled them to have their own nation. And then in the end, we left. because President Maliki didn't want to serve anymore, and said we'd prosecute if you guys stay. And we said, you're not going to prosecute anybody. We're going to bring guys home. We're starting combat operations. We've been there for 8 years, and it was time to come home, and we did. And I can't tell you which one was more successful, Afghanistan or Iraq, but there's difficulties with both. But at our level, our job was go and fight, our nation's wars that they gave us in the best way that we could, and to try to enable governance and create stability, et cetera. And we did that every deployment, and it was what it was. So after that, after those 4 kind of deployments in the span of 3.5 years after the Q course, the family's kind of disjointed. We just had our third son, and we kind of wanted to put the family back together. So we went to Europe, went to Norway to the NATO Joint Warfare Center. Had no clue what NATO was, didn't know how to spell it, but I was like, it's Norway. Let's go put the family together.
Yeah.
And I walked into that job and just didn't have an understanding of the European security environment at all, coming from the background I had. But we were there for 3 years, learned it. That's where we got back into a church over there. There was an international church there. And the 3 years we were there were 3 relatively good years for the family. I'll add in here that when I came back from the 05-06 Afghanistan trip, because this will lead into when we talk later about some of the divorce issues and the family kind of fracturing. My wife had admitted to an affair, just to keep it real simple and be decent, to an affair during that deployment, and it told me truthfully about it. And we went to marriage counseling twice, and then she said never again. And I kind of packaged that, I don't know, tuck that into a box, store that away, and so we wanted to put the family back together, and put the marriage back together, and we had our 3rd kid and everything, and so we got to Norway. And
had you even unpacked the trauma that you experienced from the first deployments before any of this happened? Were you?
I don't think there's any time to. I didn't know I had any trauma. I mean, who does?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're screened psychologically anyway when you go through the Q course, you go through selection and everything. And so, and you saw a lot of horrific things, but you don't, not that they don't bother you, but they don't impact you the same, I guess, or something. I don't know. But you don't know you have trauma, and you've gone over and over and over.
Yeah. So you're just going through life, and you're trying to, you're just living, and you're.
It's the job, and that's what it was, and now we're over here in this beautiful country and trying to put the family back together and trying to do some recovery within the marriage, from the affair, and we got 3 kids, and we had our 4th son over there, our little Norwegian surprise,
Yeah, no kidding.
little Norwegian gift, but that was absolutely wonderful, and he wasn't surprised. I mean, it was planned, and we had 3 great years over there, and we got integrated into the international church over there, and that's where the second, third years I was a men's ministry leader over there, and that church went from 7 or 8 guys in the men's ministry group to about 12. You had the oil industry over there. You had NATO over there, and I think by the time we left, it was like over 20 men, And so every Tuesday at my house, we get together for 3 hours, and Noah and Ben would join us, and we do some kind of study. We get together for an hour and have food, social, whatever, and you got a lot of different guys from a lot of different walks of life, international in nature and scope, and we'd eat, we do some kind of study, and then you got interactions throughout the week. We try to get together for coffee or whatever, and so it was a good 3 years over there. We kind of came back together. I had an injury from Iraq actually in 2006. My hip got really messed up. Essentially got destroyed, got crushed, and I've been dealing with that for 3 years in Norway. So coming back, I had hip replacement surgery scheduled for my right hip. And it was actually 3 years of excruciating pain. And so we put the family back together, prepared to move back to the States. I'd been picked up to go to my majors course, now promoted to major, and go work in the intelligence community at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency for a year, and do my intermediate level education, as they call it, and get my hip surgery, and get that replaced, and then do physical therapy from that, so I can go back.
Yeah, I was about to say, what's the attitude behind the hip surgery? Was it like, I'm going to get this and I'm just going to go back to ground pounding again? Or?
For me, there's no question. I mean, Norway was a timeout, and I was fortunate to get that. A lot of guys didn't. A lot of guys stayed, in the units at the tactical level of the NCOs, and they deployed over and over and over and over. Officers cycle in and they cycle out. And so I knew my 3-year break in Norway is over. I've got to hit my majors course. I want to go right back to third group. And the wars are still raging. It's 09, 10. Mm-hmm. And so we went back. I did the interagency fellowship in the intel community there in D.C. I got my right hip replaced. It was crushed. Bone-on-bone contact. The joint had ripped up.
It was time.
It was time. I put it off for 3 years or whatever. It was like, okay, let's get it fixed. And then I had to, I wanted to go back to third group, so I had to go interview with the group commander. You got to interview to come back in. You got to, and they knew I had a replaced hip, so I had to jump again. I had to roll March PT test, moose shoot, communicate, all that kind of stuff. And I could. I was very functional. I remember the doc telling me that you'll never do that stuff again. And I just kind of looked at him and I went, that's why you're going to fix me, because that's my job. Yeah. And everybody's got steel in them. Everybody has injuries by this point. Yeah. I'm not unique. And so there's just no, I didn't see any other way. I mean, they fixed it. So I'm going back. Because I knew guys had stuff in their spines. I knew guys that had rods in their arms, gunshot wounds, and the guys were still going back to the units and deploying again. And that was my job, to go and try to give the best leadership I could to the guys I worked with. And we finished that year and a half in D.C. I got passed everything I needed to pass back at third group, and went back and then took command of B-23. And that kicked off about 2 more years of deployments. But
did you send that doctor a letter and say,
"Thank you very much,"
or did it say, "Thank you very
here's
much"?
Me jumping
I told you so.
Here's me jumping out of a plane. I told you so. Yeah.
Here's a Christmas card from me.
Postcard from Baghdad. I'm right back in Baghdad, 2011. Years later. Yeah. But.
Oh yeah. So you got some more you got some more action right there. So what was it like leadership wise? Any spiritual impact on the team? Obviously in the men's group it was there. You're piecing together some family life. There's some there's some rough stuff going on there. You got trauma. You don't even really know you're dealing with it, but it's there. You're just maybe not even aware of it yet. And little do you know, you're getting hit from every angle. But you're pieced back together. You're operating. You get to do what you love a little more. But what was your leadership like, spiritual wise? Did you try to ever? Did you just let the fundamentals of Christianity carry you as a leader, where nothing had to be said? It was example. I know everybody's got good and bad things we have to filter through and do better. But for the most part, was there an element you're like, hey, when I wake up today, I'm going to try to maybe have an impact in this way?
Certainly back in Norway, where it was a staff job, 9 to 5, you're home. I mean, we took trips and stuff like that. We had TDYs, but we weren't deploying or anything. It was easier, and you had your community right there for 3 solid years. Going back to Fort Bragg, D.C. and the intel community first off, and then with my surgery and then a year of recovery from that and a 4th child, we never integrated fully into a church. And I would say that was kind of the beginning of the decline when I go back and look at the roadmap. we didn't integrate fully into a church, and it didn't happen when I then took command, because I deployed for 18 out of those 24 months. And then we got to Europe again in Estonia, smaller country, fast forwarding a little bit, small international church. And by the time we got to Belgium, it just, we had not really been integrated into a church by then in several years. And and by then, too much had happened, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
let me touch on this, and I'm going to foreshadow a little bit to part 3. I'm not sure how you feel about your identity. A lot of people join for different reasons, but for all intents and purposes, you become a part of things that are bigger than us. And men, in my opinion, long for identity and to be a part of something big, and I think that's important. I also think, just like if you join a sport and you are wholly ingrained in it, totally ingrained in it, things are wonderful, and you're thriving, and you feel like you have purpose, and things are still terrible at times, but you're still a part of it. But there's that identity. Mm-hmm. So, kind of speaking to what's going to talk about later, because obviously part of life is retirement.
Yeah, identities. We definitely talk about that next.
So, what was it like? You get that hip replacement. Did you feel your identity a little bit? Did you feel like, I've got more fight in me, but I can't do it forever? What was that like?
Maybe. Maybe you start feeling your mortality.
Yeah. Placed. You regain command. Take that back up.
Yep.
And
come to command now. Yep.
Yeah. So what's coming? What's next?
So, we're back at Fort Bragg. Went back to B-23. A lot of the same guys, same buddies from my team. I think 3 of the team sergeants were on my team as a captain on my ODA, which again is a great thing. It shows the quality of NCOs I had. And you're coming back in, and guys know you. So you're back in your old unit, and it's familiar faces, and and what's been going on for the last 3 years, and they're like, where you been for the last 3 years, and kind of thing. And so I think the day after I took command, within the week, I was on a plane back to Iraq. This is 2011, and it was that summer. We went back over. The war being negotiated between Obama and Maliki on that deployment. Everybody to be out by 1 December. We didn't know that deploying. We didn't know it was going to be the last rotation, but the political situation became untenable for both governments. Mm-hmm. And so Obama wanted to bring us home. Iraq wanted us out. It worked out for both leaders. We'll just leave it at that. And about halfway through the deployment, they started talking about 1 December. And it's like, okay, well, that's what we got to do. And so we were there. We were the last, the way it worked out, we were the last Special Forces entity in Iraq. All the commands dissolved. All the conventional units dissolved. Everybody was literally driving out to Kuwait the last couple of months. It was a disaster, to be honest. We stayed there, the one troop from B-23 that we had to cover the last 5,000 people driving out. We're the last operational entity in Iraq. There's one SEAL platoon. There was B-23 with our troop, and we had a lieutenant colonel from task force. That was it. So technically, we're the last operational unit in Iraq. And the guys did extraordinary. They did everything they're supposed to do. We stood up. Our follow-on mission was to stamp the Special Operations Command Central Crisis Response Element in another country in the Middle East. So half my guys were down there doing that, working with SEAL Team 1. There's going to be a joint CT strike force, forward deployed to the Middle East to conduct operations, for another country, since we no longer going to be in Iraq. And so we're trying to close out the mission. Vice President Biden was coming in to do the closing ceremony. President Obama chose not to come, and so we had to train for that. We were part of the security element for that, the Secret Service and everybody else.
Oh yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was real interesting. So we're training for that by day, because we got security for the Vice President of the United States. We're the last operational command, that's still doing DA missions at night. So we're still going out hunting bad guys at night.
What's it feeling like? Or do you feel like it's a little scarce with personnel leaving? Or
it was a ghost town. Yeah.
I mean,
because the airfield at Baghdad International Airfield, where we're stationed, we call it Area 4, right across from the airfield. Less and less Americans all the time. I'm having to cut my unit down to send them down to this other country to work at SEAL Team 1 to receive us.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling.
We're having to put guards up at night, our guys. People are coming over the wall, taking resources. Everything in the country, from the Special Ops, Combined Joint Special Ops Task Force, the Siege Sub, is getting signed down to me. I literally signed for everything. I was the senior advisor to General Fadl al-Barawari, the Kurdish warlord who was the Special Ops commander for all Iraqi Commando, CT, SF, SOF forces. That 1,000 stories there I could tell. Just very unique, very unique. But we're ending a war. I mean, how do you really end it? And what's it like being the last unit? The last commander, so to speak. I mean, it was bizarre.
Yeah, that's unreal. I don't know.
And so we did it. We did that, and like I say, we're still operating at night every single night until the end, and training for the closing ceremony. We did that successfully. We jumped down to the other country. We signed everything over to Fadl. That was the point. And then we stood up this other CT entity. I did 2 more rotations through there next year, and so it was just a busy 2 years. Busy 2 years. Extraordinary 2 years. Because that's just not normal career type stuff. And so you're closing down a war. You're standing up new CT units that are joint. And then President Obama then came over to Jordan, some pretty serious stuff, and so we got picked up in the Middle East to do his security over there. Knew some of the Secret Service guys from before. Obama would later come to Estonia a couple years later to fast forward, and again a couple of Secret Service guys over there. I was like, hey man, Jordan, Iraq.
You're on a serious security detail.
It was pretty cool. It was really, really cool. And so we did those missions. BD3 did, and it made it easy for me because the guys were so extraordinary. It made my job easier. We're shutting down Iraq. We're doing the vice president. We're doing President Obama. But those guys are on autopilot. It's like, hey, we have POTUS. Yep. That's a no-fail mission, obviously. And so we had the vice president and the president in the Middle East, one in a country at war at the closing ceremony, Biden, and then we had Obama in Jordan talking to allies over there, the king, and hey, we want to do some things, and X, Y, and Z. And we did that.
Those are some serious pieces on the chessboard.
Man, that extraordinary missions. The Jordan mission was just incredible, man. I mean, I could talk about that. The preparation for it, the support, the resources, and so anyway, two great years in command. But 3 deployments, 18 months worth, and there were some shadows in the marriage. I'll say, coming back and forth, it was getting more difficult to sustain, and so I picked up a job going to Estonia to teach at the Baltic Defense College. Go back to Europe, put the family together again. Yeah. We did that for 3 years, but by that time things were catching up. Things were compounding. Certainly for me, the number of deployments and the stress, the injuries, unprocessed things. I didn't, again, know I had trauma if I did. And then marriage-wise, we were not confronting some of the issues within the marriage. Yeah. And then we did that for 3 years, and then we went to Belgium, I decided to retire. We're going to retire and stay in Europe. And in Belgium is where everything came completely unhinged.
Yeah. So everything you've been through, everything you're going through, all these things have met at this choke point of your life, and it's about to take a turn that is going to be a really tough journey ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have shared some incredible stories of resilience and leadership and trying to navigate mentally through these tough environments. So we're going to talk more about that, about these brutal environments, the impact on a man and his faith and life and
on the children.
And on the children. Yeah. Absolutely. And we're going to address that in part 3.
Okay.
Thanks.